Gibson has a new CEO. I know what you're thinking. Gibson? Today Gibson announced a new leadership transition. Anne Rohosy has been appointed interim president and CEO while Cesar steps down from the CEO role. These are the news. I didn't really want to cover them, but I saw a video this morning from Casino Guitars where they talked about that new CEO thing, and I thought, yeah, that's interesting, and didn't thought anything else about it. But then I read the comments, and the comments from musicians surprised me, to say the least, and I will get into that in a second, but that's the reason why I'm covering this topic. So I give you a quick background story about Anne Rohosy, and then I will talk about why I decided to make this video. So she joined Gibson in 2021 as Chief Human Resource and Impact Officer. Later became Managing Director of Gibson Amplifiers, promoted to Chief Commercial Officer, overseeing global sales, retail, direct-to-consumer businesses, and commercial strategy. Previously, before Gibson, she worked in leadership positions for Nike and Levi's, or Levi's as we call it here, and she brings about 30 plus years of executive leadership experience, and is now appointed as interim president and CEO of Gibson. Interim means it's for a specific amount of time until they either find somebody else to do the role, or if she is good enough, then she will probably be appointed as CEO for Gibson. That's how big companies usually do these kind of things, because first of all, they can check out how the person is doing in the role and also pay her less. And if she's doing good, then you saved a couple of years of salary, higher salary. And if not, you can exchange the person without any hassle. And I know that because I worked over 25 years in a big international company. That's the news. So far, nothing special. You know my opinion about Gibson if you saw my older videos. This is a lazy-ass, money-grabbing company that relies on their reputation from 70 years ago. Go f*** yourself. I have enough. That opinion was based on the instruments that they sent me, not about the brand Gibson. I said it a couple of times, I love Gibson guitars. I didn't love most of the guitars that they sent me, and that is a big difference, and why this is important. So let's talk about the comments, and those are the reasons why I'm making this video. So I'll read you a few of the comments that were on the video from Casino Guitars. I will link the video in the description below. I just read you a few comments, and then I boil it down to basically 4 complaints that the people had, or concerns that the people had about this ongoing change at Gibson. So one comment says, new CEO from jeans company Levi's. Wow, what could go wrong? Just another bean counter who does not understand musicians or guitars or the heritage. Red flags all over. Gibson is finished. Another comment says, GM, which stands for General Motors, I guess. GM made a woman whose background was HR, its CEO. That's a mistake. HR has nothing to do with the core business. Another clothing CEO at a guitar company. I see disaster in Gibson's future. Then a comment from a genius that was quite difficult to read, but I will try my best. Her track record isn't good. Nike has been failing, he meant, I guess, and Levi was hurt by woke branding. Just the reality. And blah, 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 so on. Just a few more comments, then I will get to the point. Ha, absolute a woke call, track record. Another comment, go woke, go broke. Another comment, rest in peace Gibson. Another comment, oh great, another musician, not in charge. What do jeans and sneakers have to do with guitar? Another comment. She follows a long list of female CEOs who kicked ass in what used to be a male-dominant job, like ... That's supposed to be funny, I guess. So I filtered that down to 4 main complaints or 4 main concerns that the people have. So she's not a guitar player and therefore not qualified for the job. She comes from a fashion background, Nike and Levi's, and therefore not qualified for the job. She worked in human resource, which is a function that I worked in for over 10 years for a big international company. So there I have my personal opinion. But still, it was mentioned a couple of times. And that HR, human resource, does not understand the core business. I have quite a few arguments against that. And the other thing is that Gibson went woke, apparently. And this is the part that pisses me off the most, to be quite honest. But I will keep that for last. So, she's a non-guitar player. I understand the concern. I know Cesar was into guitars. And by the way, I'm not talking about Cesar because I haven't researched him. It seems like he's a pretty cool guy. And a lot of people like him because he's playing guitar, and he had a few pictures taken in the factory where he was building guitars, and I don't know, from my experience, he probably never seen the QC department. But whatever, it's not about him. I don't know him, neither do I know her, but that's not on what I will base my comments on, because I don't know him, I don't know her. But I will get to that in a second. I'm seeing this a little bit through the human resource hat. I researched her resume, so I will go about this like I would usually do if I'm planning an interview with somebody. You will hear my opinion about that if you manage to stay that long. I'm trying to keep it as short as possible. So the argument that she doesn't even play guitar, and that's somehow a problem in that function. Again, I've worked for many, many years for a much bigger brand than Gibson. It was a fashion brand. And let me tell you, the CEO, or the different CEOs that we had over the years, none of them was a fashionista. Because it's absolutely not necessary for that function. I guess depending on your leadership style and on the size of the company, there might be a point to that argument that you should know the product. But when we're talking about this size, company-wise, then you have specialists for each and every department of that business. And you would have at Gibson, I guess, somebody that is responsible for product development. And you will have somebody, I almost said quality control, they don't have anybody for quality control, but you would have somebody for advertising and so on. And your function, your responsibility as a CEO is not to decide what is the next spring collection, what kind of guitars are we making, what colors will the next SG have, and so on. You're responsible for the whole company. You're responsible for those leaders of those specific departments that I mentioned. And there are many in our company and probably many in Gibson, I hope so. So you're responsible for that. You're responsible for the strategy of the whole company. If playing the guitar would be a qualification or a requirement for that job, why don't they take like Larry from the QC department? He can play a fucking D chord, I'm sure. But that's not that's just not important. So this argument doesn't make any sense to me. Then another thing, she has a background in fashion. And fashion and music never went together. Makes no sense at all. I mean, I kind of understand where you're coming from when you make comments like that. I just did a little bit of research, even though it wasn't really necessary. I mean, Nike is the biggest sneaker brand in the world, by far. I don't know if you've seen the shoes, but Michael Jordan did a deal with them a couple of years ago. That was pretty good. Yeah, it's not a small brand. It's by far bigger, 100 times bigger than Gibson is. And she was there in leading positions. I think she was responsible for Americas in leading management positions, top management for years with Nike and Levi's. Levi's is the biggest denim brand in the world, the most recognizable denim brand in the world, with a lot of history. A little bit like Gibson, so maybe that fits somehow. So she's, in my opinion, as a human resource employee, I think that's a better qualification than being able to play the guitar. But it's just my opinion. Another point that people were upset about, she's working in the HR department at Gibson, and HR has no idea about the core business. I said it before, I worked with HR for over 10 years. The last 6-7 years were on high level management. Let me tell you what I know about human resource when it comes to big global companies. HR, I think the people referring in the comments to HR, to the person that brings the cookies in the morning, and that might be true for a mom and pop company with 2 or 3 stores. But when you're talking about a multi-billion-dollar company, then the picture is a little bit different. And the core business. HR is involved in most of the biggest business decisions that a company makes. We call it a triangle. It's the head of the department or of the company, which is the CEO. Then it's controlling, the CFO. And the third part is human resource. That's the triangle. So those 3 functions are always on the table when it comes to the most important business decisions that a company of that caliber makes. Another thing that we do in HR is we're creating the role descriptions. We're writing the role descriptions and creating the responsibilities for that role and defining not only what are the responsibilities, but what are the skills and what are the experience that you have if you take on such a role. Also, I spent years with, it was the poltergeist. I spent years with creating trainings, giving trainings for leadership positions and for special positions or special departments, for controlling, for visual merchandising, for human resource, for advertising. Another thing, I also hired these people for these functions. And in order to do that, you have to know about the role and about the core business of that function, right? And I could go on with that for hours. But the argument that HR does not know the core business is just, that's shit, that's bullshit. But that's not the most important thing here. So what did we have? She doesn't play guitar, okay? She comes from a fashion background and she worked in HR and therefore she's not qualified. Okay, still not enough reason for making a video. By the way, if you haven't subscribed yet, I would like to ask you to subscribe to the channel, because I imagine I will lose a lot of subscribers after I release this video. But I rather have a couple of hundred subscribers than a couple of thousand. And this is a bridge to the fourth problem that most people had, and this is the part that I'm most concerned about. And this was not one comment, these were many comments about Gibson is getting woke. And why would you say that Gibson is becoming woke when the only thing that they announced is that the new CEO will be a woman? Just because of that. That means Gibson is going woke because they put a woman in that position. So let me see real quick what Cesar is doing, because he's not leaving the company. He stays with Gibson. He's staying on the board. He becomes a strategic advisor, and he's staying as a global artist ambassador. So let me quickly sum this up. So He's not the CEO anymore, so he got rid of that responsibility. He's staying on the board, which means he's probably getting the same, if not more, salary than he used to. He's becoming a strategic advisor, which means he's still calling the shots, or some of the shots at least. That's what I read between the lines here. And he's staying a global artist ambassador. And that tells me he's, partying with the rock stars? What a horrendous job. Yeah, but Gibson is going woke. So basically, the guy gives off all the responsibilities that he had as a CEO and all the work. He's giving that to a woman. That sounds not woke to me. That sounds like the most macho thing to do. And basically how we are treating women since the beginning of time, right? So the argument that Gibson is becoming woke by giving the job to a woman, it's just bullshit, just like your comments. So I would like to know, what do you mean when you say woke? Do you mean putting a woman in a position that was held by a man? Does that mean you don't exclude people from your country, from your society, but include them? Does that mean everybody has the same rights, no matter their sexual preference? Does that mean that you're not sexist, that you're not homophobe? Because if that's what woke means, then I'm 100% woke. 100%. Being against women? Come on, guys. Which year do you think we are living in? And I guess a few of the people that left comments like this, I was going to say, don't you have a wife? Probably not. I mean, I guess with this attitude, you were probably not very successful with women, so we can check that off the list, right? But I guess you had a mother or have a mother, maybe a sister, maybe even a daughter. Why would you talk about women like that? Why would you judge somebody because of what they are and not what they do? Because we don't know what she's done yet. And I will, if I ever buy another Gibson again, let's say in a couple of years, and if she's still a CEO and the guitar is still shit, then I will judge her, but not because of who she is or the fact that she's a woman, but because of the fact that she sent me a fucked up guitar from her company. And all the rest doesn't really matter. By the way, there is an Easter egg in this video. If you have seen it, or if you haven't seen it, check it again. Something that's for the next video. Let me know in the comments what you think about all of this, really. Take care, have a good one.